Hey, what is up, you guys? So today I'm going to show you how to set up your Floyd Rose. Over the last decade of touring and about 15 years of working in repair shops, I've created a method that allows me to set up a Floyd Rose guitar quickly and efficiently and have it stable enough to be able to hand it to the player and have them go play a show and not worry about him breaking a string or going out of tune. So how do we set up a Floyd Rose in the same amount of time that it takes to set up a Telly or a Les Paul? Well, I use these wedges that I created. And they're all four sizes. So we have extra large, large, medium, and small. And I have an array of Floyd Rose equipped guitars that I've tested them all on. They all work on all sizes of your instrument. So you just find the wedge that works best for that guitar, and then the rest can be set aside. So before we get into setting your bridge, let's go ahead and put new strings on your instrument. We'll tune it and then get it to pitch. And then we're going to take a screwdriver and we're going to pull the claw in towards the body by about 2 full rotations. Now, it is worth to note that on a Floyd Rose, I always do one string at a time. You have knife edges on your bridge. So if I was to take this bridge off, and there's a whole video where I kind of go a little bit more into detail of this, but if you look at the bridge and the posts, the bridge creates kind of like a knife edge, and it sits inside of this post. So if you look at your post, you can see, how it concaves, and there's a little line. Well, that's where the bridge sits. So if it's constantly clanking up and down, and you take all the strings off, and it slides into place and makes that clunk sound sometimes they do, you really just risk damaging that knife edge because it's such a thin, fine line. So just be careful with that. Do one string at a time. It's what I find is best, unless you know how to actually set the Floyd, but then you have to do that every time. It's kind of a pain. So unless I'm cleaning the board or polishing the frets out, maybe once a year or twice a year or whatever, I just do one string at a time. Okay, so we've got the bridge pulled back closer to the body. So what we want to do now is using this wedge. We're going to place it in to the cavity, and I'll show you in a second. And what we're doing is we're lifting the bridge to be parallel. So you want the top on a normal Floyd Rose bridge, you want it to be parallel to the top of your instrument. Now, it's worth noting on like an edge tremolo system, the top of the plate's usually angled. So you want to make sure that the bottom of the bridge plate is parallel to the body. And on some of the edge systems, if you're looking down the guitar and you look at the bridge, there's like a little black square. And those are usually always parallel, and that's where you set the edge system to. Some of them I've worked on have them, some of them they don't. Kind of just depends. There's a lot of different edge variations out there. So let's see what we're doing back here. So I go between the springs and the bridge block and the body. And the reason I go here is because this is pushing tension onto the springs, pulling the springs downwards, and creating a stop tail effect by using the springs to pull the bridge up, but it can't because the wedge is here. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to set up the instrument just like any other hardtail. It allows me to set it up like if it's a Telly or a Les Paul or a Fender, anything like that, I can do it. Now that this is in and it's locked and the bridge is parallel, I'll adjust my relief. I'll adjust the action. If it wasn't a locking nut, you could adjust the nut height. Sometimes you have to adjust the locking nut height, but very, very rarely. Adjust pickup height, all of that good stuff. Only thing I would wait on is intonation, but set everything else up. And then it's time to get the wedge out. So now we have it installed. We've set the relief, we've set action, we've set all of that. How do we get this guy out without throwing the whole setup? Well, you would put it in playing position, and you would retune. And then you would lock down the nut, retune again, and then in playing position, you would grab your screwdriver, and you would gently, with like a 1/4 inch of a torque turn or less, loosen each side of your trem claw. And then eventually, it would just pop right out. It would just fall down. And then at that point, you would tune it back to pitch And if the strings are going flat, that means the bridge is lifting up. So then you would come back here and you would do a minuscule turn to tighten the claw to bring it closer to the body, pulling the bridge down. Now, if the guitar is going sharp, that means the bridge is pulling back, which means the springs are too tight. So you give it a little bit of a turn to loosen the claw to allow that to come forward. Now, one of the steps that I think is very important, and everyone has their own way, but before you remove the claw, you really want to stretch the strings. There's a tool that I use on the road called a string stretcher, and unfortunately I don't have any here with me at the time, but they're just a little tool that you can buy from several different websites that sell them now. And you essentially just go up and down each string 8 times for 4 sets. So I do 4 sets of 8 on each string. And I have 3 string stretchers on the road, and I do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I just keep cycling them through so that way they don't get too hot and break. You have to stretch your strings out thoroughly before you can float it. So we're going to stretch the strings, and then we're going to set this to float. And all we have to do to set it to float, like I said earlier, we'll put new strings on it, we'll tune it to pitch, use your screwdriver and bring in the claw in close to the body, at least to where it starts to sink in. Grab your wedge, slide it in between the springs and the trem block in the body. You press it in to where it creates a parallel shelf where the top of the bridge is parallel to the body. And then you finish your setup with your relief, your action, your pickup height, any nut work you might have to do. Stretch the strings, lock the nut down, put it in playing position, retune, loosen the claw, bringing the claw back till, boop, it falls out. And then if it's, check the tuning one more time. If it's flat, tighten the claw a little bit till it goes in tune. If it's sharp, loosen the claw a little bit to bring it up. And then once you do that initial tune and the fine tweaking of it, then you are set. One thing I would do, especially if you actually use your Floyd, a lot of guys just love the feel of the Floyd, but they don't always use them. If you do use your Floyd, go down a few times, retune, go up a few times, retune, and just work that bridge into play. And then you might have to make a minor tweak here or there in the beginning, but after a few minutes, once everything settles, you're solid, you can run on stage, and you won't go out of tune. These trem wedges are for sale on my website, as well as this tool here that allows you to set up your PRS or your Strat style tremolo, and there will be more videos on this to come. But this is a quick and easy way to set up your Floyd. Like I said, for a more full in-depth video of me actually setting this up, you can see that down below in the link. But just wanted to kind of highlight how you could do it quickly and efficiently with these trem blocks.